Have you ever walked away from a conversation replaying every word, wondering if you said too much, too little, or the wrong thing entirely? That quiet habit of taking everything to heart can slowly drain your emotional energy without you even realizing it. So today I share about learning how to stop internalizing everything. And we'll talk about why your mind grabs onto other people's words and moods, and how to tell what's exactly yours to carry, and how to create inner boundaries to make life feel lighter. This isn't about becoming cold or detached, it's about staying kind and true to yourself without feeling overwhelmed. Protecting your peace matters just as much as taking charge of what you can control. Over time, I've learned that not every word needs a response and not every battle is ours to fight. Hi everyone, I'm Marie Crisostomo. This is a space where you're allowed to slow down, make sense of what's happening inside you, and be reminded that caring for your mind and heart is just as essential as caring for your body. And here, you get to do that without guilt, without pressure, and without emotional burnout. Internalizing doesn't always look dramatic. It's not always crying or spiraling. Most of the time, it's subtle. It's reading too much into a neutral comment and wondering, did I say something wrong? It's replaying a conversation over and over, searching for mistakes that may not even exist. Internalizing is also when you take responsibility for other people's moods. Someone's quiet and suddenly you assume you've upset them. Someone's irritated and somehow you feel the need to fix it, explain yourself, or make it better. And then there's feedback. Even when it's constructive, even when it's mild, it can feel personal. Like a comment about your behavior instantly turns into a judgment about your worth. Silence can feel the same way. No reply, no reaction, no reassurance, no clear direction, and your mind fills in the gaps with the endless assumptions, justifications, and blame. Why do we miss this pattern? Because internalizing often disguises itself as being self aware, empathetic, or emotionally intelligent. But awareness becomes harmful when you're constantly monitoring yourself, scanning for mistakes, and carrying feelings that don't belong to you. That's not emotional maturity, that's emotional overload. Awareness begins with understanding where our patterns come from. I started asking myself when I first learned to be this way, and I realized it grew out of years of suppressed thoughts and unspoken emotions. In many cultures, especially ours, especially Gen X and earlier generations, expressing feelings wasn't something we were taught or encouraged to do. Silence was often the norm. Since then, self expression has become far more accepted and openly practiced, which is a powerful shift. Still, expression is most helpful when it's done with intention, at the right time, and in the right space. The first step is simply noticing it. Once you can clearly see when you're internalizing, you gain the power to decide which feelings truly belong to you and which are someone else's to carry, not yours. How do you separate the thoughts that should be yours from what shouldn't? Whenever something feels heavy, like someone's tone, their reaction, their silence, you can ask yourself the following questions. First, did, did I actually do or say something harmful? Or am I assuming? Facts first. Feelings aren't always evidence. Second, Was this reaction present even before I entered the situation? If yes, chances are it didn't start with you. Third, am I responding out of responsibility or out of guilt? Responsibility is calm, guilt is urgent and heavy. So you see, without this internal check, we assume responsibility before we pause. We try to explain ourselves, adjust our behavior, or emotionally shoulder something that was never handed to us or meant for us in the first place. Here's the truth. Not every emotional moment requires your involvement. Other people's reactions are often shaped by their inner world, their stress, their history, their fears, their expectations. What you're seeing on the surface is rarely the full story, and it's rarely about you. Someone might respond sharply because they're overwhelmed. Someone might be distant because they're struggling internally. Someone might criticize because they're projecting their own standards or insecurities. But that doesn't automatically mean you did something wrong. The ownership test helps you pause before absorbing emotion. If it's not yours to carry, you can set it down. If it's not yours to fix, you can release the pressure to repair it. And if it's not yours to process, you can allow the other person to sit with their own feelings. This doesn't mean you stop being kind or accountable. It means you stop over-functioning emotionally. You are responsible for your intentions, your actions, and your words, not for managing how everyone else feels about them. So when you start checking ownership instead of assuming blame, your emotions become lighter, clearer, and more grounded. And that's not emotional distance, that's emotional maturity. I want to be clear, this isn't about pretending everything is fine or gaslighting yourself. It's about giving your brain a fairer, kinder interpretation of reality. For example, instead of thinking, it's my fault they're upset, you could reframe it and say, I did what I could and their feelings are their own responsibility. Instead of, I'm too much, you might say, my feelings are valid and expressing them is okay. So, rewriting these scripts take practice. At first, you might catch yourself halfway through a spiral and pause to consciously replace it with a more balanced thought. Over time, your brain starts to naturally take a step back before assigning blame or guilt. And the goal isn't perfection, it's clarity, it's emotional space, it's freedom from carrying stories that don't belong to you. Because once you give yourself that permission, your mind stops being a constant critic and becomes a supportive guide instead. When someone says something sharp or when a wave of guilt hits, give yourself a moment to breathe. Notice the emotion, label it if you can, and ask, does this belong to me? Am I meant to carry this or is it passing by? Finally, sit with discomfort without turning it into self-blame. Being uneasy or upset doesn't automatically mean you did something wrong. You can acknowledge the feeling, explore it, and let it move through you without assigning guilt. The more you practice this, the more your mind learns that it doesn't have to absorb every emotional wave. Boundaries like this don't make you cold. They make your heart spacious enough to feel without being overwhelmed. Building a lighter relationship with yourself starts with how you talk to yourself. Too often we interrogate our thoughts and feelings as if every mistake or misstep defines our worth. But self-talk can be gentle instead of critical. Try asking yourself, what do I need right now? Instead of, why did I mess this up? Softening the inner voice gives your mind room to breathe. Another key practice is checking in rather than checking yourself. Instead of constantly monitoring your behavior or worrying about how you're perceived, pause and ask, how am I feeling? What do I need? It shifts your attention inward in a supportive way rather than turning reflection into judgment. Daily rituals that I spoke about in previous episodes are another way to reinforce emotional safety and self trust, such as short morning meditation, journaling, journaling your feelings rather, a mindful walk, or even setting aside a few minutes to simply breathe and notice your emotions. Small, consistent practices like these signal to yourself that your inner world matters, that your feelings are valid, and that you're capable of caring for yourself. And I pray that you do get to that level of self care. So, remember, your emotions are not liabilities, they're signals. By softening your self talk, checking in instead of policing yourself, and honoring your inner rituals, you create a relationship with yourself that's kind, trustworthy, and resilient. Every choice you make to support your mind and heart is a step toward a lighter, freer, and more peaceful you. So, thanks for being with me today. If you know someone who needs to hear this, do share it with him or her. And until then, take care always.